Guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're over on the pay to win account. As we can see, we're in chapter 36, but where did it all begin? We're going to go ahead today and look at a beginner's guide. If you're relatively new to AFK Arena, I hope it really explains where we've come from, the journey we've kind of taken with this account through 36 chapters as we start preparing for late game and end game within this account. So let's take a look at the guide, and at the very beginning of AFK Arena, how to start accounts off right is really important. So let's go ahead and we'll get into the guide. All right, so here is a copy of the guide. Big shout out to Delta V29 over on Reddit for this guide. Again, it is very much looking at the basics, looking at the wish list, stargazing, gear priority. A quick reminder to a lot of players, if you have not seen, especially when it comes to new players that don't have the experience in AFK Arena, it is a very, very in-depth guide. And I love running through it and really explaining it, kind of the ins and outs, because sometimes you can't catch it all from the guide. So looking at wish lists and summons, Noble Tavern, here is setting up your wish list. As you can see, we do have a lot of key heroes in here that are really complements through the entire game. You have Damon in here, you have the Iran Leica combo, you have Kren in there, a lot of the very strong heroes. Even looking at the Lightbearer, you have all of the core heroes that you need for the Lightbearer in here. When summoning with diamonds, only do 10 times summons. If you do the individual summons with the diamonds, it is more expensive. So ultimately make sure when you're looking at faction scrolls, especially earlier guys, Graveborn is the strongest faction by far. They have an absolute phenomenal lineup of heroes. So go ahead and use all your faction scrolls for Graveborn. In the past, it used to be Lightbearers. Then it kind of transferred to Wilders for a little bit. But now with the lineup, especially with Damon and particularly, the Graveborn faction is super strong. Looking here at the second block of your team comps, early team comps, 1 carry, 1 tank, 3 supports, works very well. Whether the carry is Ainz, whether it's Damon, whether it's Wukong, Muriel, Damon up here, you can see 1 carry, 1 tank, 3 supports will work perfectly. Looking at the tanks, we have Hendrik here, we have Thorin, and we have Brutus. Brutus, very easy to acquire, even at Elite. He will work very well if you add some levels on him just because of the immunity he brings, allowing the other heroes to scale and really be survival. Even here in Wukong, AFK Arena starts you off with early copies of Wukong. He is really good, especially the first 100, 120, 140 levels. He can do very well, especially you have support. When you look here at our 8 support classes that are listed here, absolutely phenomenal. We have major CC with Tassie in there. Rowan, the most powerful support in the game. We have Leica, who is damaged but does team haste energy. Arden, even early, can root a ton. Oden, group enemy, stopping from the ult. We have Silas in here, really strong. In here with Pippa, Tassie, a little bit squishier, but still has the ability of multiple heroes, including crowd control or damage or healing. So very, very strong there. You could also put, I would probably say Namora in here, just because Namora does have a little bit of support capacity, especially if you have her on a lower level. These are not the heroes to really focus on leveling up very quick. Your primary hero and the only hero that you're really going to be focusing on leveling up and remaining them, keeping them at the cap, are pretty much Wukong, Muriel, or Damon are going to be the strongest heroes. Now, there are a couple variations of those just because if you pull heroes out of the wish list, very, very early heroes, they will work very well in early. So let's say even here, I don't get a copy of Damon. You will get Wukong. Again, you do get Wukong for free, but you don't get many copies of Muriel. You can use another solid hero as a carry that will work well. Again, we talked about Ainz. Iran will even work for a considerable amount of time. Kren will work for quite a bit. There are a couple of heroes, but this is a really good baseline team comp what to look for. So before level 160, and I love how this is broken down. So these are the heroes you want to ascend, are these 5. So looking at these 5, if you ascend these 5 and without really knowing the game, again, getting into it really fast, this is what it's going to look like with these 5 ascended, because you have the 4 primary factions right here, which is awesome. Meaning that when you do get at least 2 Elite Plus copies of another hero, you can use your fodder hero within there, or the heroes that you have built up before level 160 to go ahead and ascend that hero all the way up to mythic. So if you have some fodder right here, and then one other copy, you can actually use some of those legendary plus heroes, as you can see here, to get to 160 to 180, which is the reason you want to focus on building them early. Majority of the time, you do get a lot of copies of them, of the non-ascended or the legendary tier heroes, to make it very easy. This is where you get stuck, guys, and this is why you will not use any of your legendary tier heroes. So once you have legendary plus heroes, that's as far as the legendary tier heroes can be progressed, meaning this is not what you want. You do not want a bunch of heroes that are at legendary. You don't have a second copy to get them to legendary plus. This is spreading out your food entirely too thin, meaning it is going to be very, very difficult to progress, or your progression is going to be slowed down because you don't have the legendary plus. Focus on building these first. When you start getting the heroes that can go into the ascended tier, you will build them up as you accumulate them out of the priority. So after level 160, fodder heroes are great, but they have a max level of 160, so you need 4 skill heroes. All of these heroes only have 3 skills. When you get into the ascended class, you get into 4 skills. So looking at the priority again for each faction here, and I definitely agree with it, guys. These are the 2 that you want to focus on early. I'm not sure about Rain, if I would really do Rain that early, but Rowan absolutely, possibly Rose, possibly Rain, just because, remember, with Rain, she does get a significant buff, but it comes from furniture, so it is still a long ways off at this point. For Maulers, Kren absolutely shines. We have seen him do phenomenal. Same with Titus. Titus provides crowd control. Iran, very strong in there. Tassie, S-class crowd control, absolutely amazing. Damon and Oden, 2 of the very important heroes. You can see all 4 of these in red. Those are the priorities that you really want to focus on. Ultimately, getting them up before the other heroes. Backup plan, if RNG isn't ideal, so if you're getting a lot of really bad pulls, see if you can get a copy of Ainz. If you don't get carries in the faction such as Oden, Damon, Kren, Iran, Raku, you can always garrison Ainz and use him as your carry. Ainz will work absolutely phenomenal, just destroying everything with his ultimate ability. All right, guys, so moving over to the right side of the guide, looking at stargazing. Rule of Stargazer, only ever stargaze for Celestials and Hypogeans. We see a lot of gazes in there. We've seen them for Brutus. We've seen them for Scrag. I've seen them for Leica. Only the Celestials and the Hypogean heroes, because they are the super difficult heroes that are difficult to get. Do not gaze with diamonds until you have at least 10 ascended heroes. Now, the big reason for this is if you're stargazing too early, you are going to forego all the Stargazer cards that you can pull out of the faction towers. I recommend having at least 2 to 3 heroes of every single faction ascended on the 4 primary factions before you start. That way you know you're pushing as far as you can to pick up those Stargazer cards. Once you hit the faction towers into floor 125, you start picking up those stargazing cards, which is a really big priority, guys. Again, if you start earlier, you're not going to be able to push the progression in the towers. Not getting the stargazer cards are going to keep you from getting a lot of heroes. Early game, elite twins are a very big priority. Elite twins, the twins have abilities that other heroes don't possess. They are super powerful when it comes to formations. Same with Mortis. Mortis doesn't need signature item, doesn't need furniture. Definitely picking up a copy of him will serve you well for the time coming. Elite plus twins, so getting a second copy of the twins. And then Elite Mahira, so just picking up a copy of Elite Mahira. Mahira is another hero that we're reluctant or we're reliant on her ultimate ability to do the mass mesmerize effect. Even at Elite, she still has the same effect. That's really the big thing here, is she doesn't have to be maxed out. She doesn't have to have the signature item. She doesn't have to have the furniture. Now, why? Well, they do help. She will still work at Elite very, very well because, again, you're relying on that ultimate ability. So after you have placed those 4, who should you stargaze first? Both are great additions, like it says here. Whichever you build and Merc the other. Me personally, I would go with Lucretia. I would actually build Lucretia first. The reason is Lucretia can run a team comp by herself. Alna, on the other hand, is more of a complement when it comes to the team comps. She can help formation. She can definitely build formations, very strong. But Lucretia can run team comps and run stages simply by herself, especially once you get her built up a little bit. When you get her mythic, unlocking that signature item, she can run team comps by herself, which is super, super strong. Looking at the gear, another breakdown here. So when you get gear, the only time that you want to enchant gear when you want to put stones on it, anything of that nature, is if you have tier gear. If you have faction gear. Non-faction gear doesn't get bonuses. It doesn't get this little question mark you see here with the mythic gear. Make sure, guys, that it is the faction gear, and this is the priority to level it up. So boots, weapon, chest, and hat. Boots give M speed and dodge. Weapon is dodge, accuracy, and attack. Chest is better defense. When you get to the tier 1 stones, exact same order: boots, weapons, chest, and hat. When you get to the tier 2, this is when it changes, guys. This one you want to do the weapons first, because the boots do no longer give any haste when you put that tier 2 stone on there. And then, of course, the boots, the chest, and the hat as well. Guild store, don't buy legendary gear. No matter what you do, you will get this gear in time. It does actually go pretty quick. Don't buy the legendary gear. Buy which of the 3 that you need the most. So starting with the gear, having the gear is a good priority, followed by the stones. Boots before the hats and chests, of course, because of the haste bonus that it gives you. Faction gear is only worth buying when you have gear for most of your heroes, which they're talking about dimensional gear here, or faction gear. Either way, it starts getting into pretty late game. I acquire the faction gear. I don't worry about the factionless gear, again, because it's gear you're not going to ultimately use as you progress further into the game. It's just going to be stuff that sits in your bag. You might fodder it, you might use it for resources, but you will not use it. Just the last part of this guide, a quick breakdown of the store. Buying the hero essence, the Poe coins, and of course our elite stones in here every single day. Every single day, this should be your go-to. Purchasing all 3 of these items. Buy these when you can afford them. With the new patch that is coming out, guys, these are going to be cheaper. Not sure exactly how much cheaper, but they are going to change the cost of these. So they are going to be a lot cheaper, which means we're going to have some additional gold coming out of there. In addition, we're getting a new star for the Field of Stars, so we're yet to see what that brings as well. Looking at the Labyrinth store, dimensional heroes are always the biggest priority. Saving your lab tokens for the dimensional heroes. Biggest thing is when you buy the dimensional heroes, once you buy them one time, you have them forever. You don't have to garrison them. You don't have to borrow them. You don't have to do anything with any of the dimensional heroes. Once you have the hero, that is it. You have the hero, you are good. Arthur, same thing. Once you buy him 4 times from the store, you have him permanently. You have him forever, which is awesome. Once he is bought out, so once you have your 4 purchases or 60 shards of Arthur, then you can buy dimensional emblems. With the amount of dimensionals that we have right now, emblems are an absolute huge priority when it comes to building them. So I would definitely pick them up as soon as possible. Labyrinth store for the next part, I would probably change up a little bit. I would prioritize Wukong as number 4, Red Chest at number 5, until you get him up to Ascended. Really the big focus here is you want to get him up to Ascended, because now we have the Celestial Tower. When you do get copies of him, so he will be built up a little bit, but ultimately making sure that you have him built sooner than later because of that Celestial Tower will allow you to get more Stargazer cards, in turn building Lucretia or Alna a lot faster. Challenger store, definitely I would build Aziz first, followed by Zolrath. Again, a lot of players will do Athalia before Zolrath, just because she is a really strong counter to Ainz, as well as a couple other formations. She really plays a key role because you can target the hero that is absolutely opposed to her, so you can make sure that you put her on one of the weakest targets, making it really easy to burn down the target fast. So I would actually do Aziz, I would do Athalia, and then we'd go with Zolrath, Orthos, and then Flora. Flora, we do get a lot of copies out of the store, or out of the chests that they do, just like we have right now. you do get a lot of copies of her, just like we got copies of Wukong. So definitely making sure that you have them for the Celestial Towers. Now, guys, this has by Phoenix number 6124, updated 6.9. Looking at the post, it's Delta V27. So again, big shout out to them over on Reddit. It's very cool to see the beginner's guide, and I love to do the video on them and love to get them a lot more exposure when it comes to the guides, making sure it's out, because this takes a lot of time. The guides like this, to create visuals like this, it does take a crazy amount of time. So I'll put the link to the guide right down below. Definitely check it out over on Reddit, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.